Today, we are diving into the super high-stakes 2026 presidential election in Uganda. It's really a story about an entire nation just gripped by tension, where one single election has put its whole future on a knife's edge.
And really, it all kicks off with this one critical question. In an age where we have instant information, what actually happens when an entire nation is cut off from the world, and from each other, right in the middle of its most important democratic moment?
Well, in Uganda, this wasn't some hypothetical question. On Election Day, the internet just went silent. And this wasn't a technical glitch or anything like that. We're talking a total nationwide blackout. It created this massive information vacuum right as people were casting their votes.
And then, in the middle of that darkness, the Electoral Commission drops these preliminary results. They showed the incumbent president with what looks like a completely insurmountable lead. And you can bet this immediately set the stage for a huge dispute.
So to really understand what's going on, we have to start with the man at the center of all of this, the long-standing leader, President Yoweri Museveni.
40. That's a huge number. That's how many years Museveni has been in power, all the way back since 1986. That makes him one of Africa's longest-serving leaders, and it really puts into perspective the immense challenge any opponent is up against.
And here's his take on it in his own words. When he's asked about allegations of rigging, President Museveni is just totally unwavering. He basically says his popular support is so overwhelming that the opposition just can't win no matter what they try.
Okay, so that's the incumbent. Now let's turn to the main challenger, a guy who really represents a massive generational shift and, to the government, a direct threat to the established order, Bobi Wine.
Now, Bobi Wine, his real name is Robert Kyagulanyi, is not your traditional politician, not by a long shot. He was one of Uganda's biggest pop stars, and he's managed to channel his huge fan base, especially among the country's massive youth population, into this explosive political movement, becoming a member of parliament and now the main presidential challenger.
And here's his powerful counter-narrative. He completely reframes the government's accusations, arguing that his only crime is daring to challenge a 4-decade-long rule. He doesn't see himself as a lawbreaker. He sees himself as a freedom fighter.
So you've got these two completely clashing stories. On one hand, President Museveni is saying his government is just enforcing the law because Bobi Wine keeps breaking it. On the other hand, Wine is saying all these actions are just proof that the election is being stolen. These two positions just cannot coexist, and that right there defines the entire conflict.
And this wasn't just a war of words. The campaign itself was marked by really intense confrontations, creating a climate that international observers found deeply troubling.
The United Nations described the whole environment as one of widespread repression and intimidation. So beyond just the internet blackout, you had security forces repeatedly using tear gas and even live bullets to break up opposition rallies. Since the last election cycle, at least 54 people have been killed in these crackdowns, and hundreds of opposition supporters have been arrested. And it all culminated with the challenger himself, Bobi Wine, being placed under house arrest.
And let's be super clear about what house arrest actually means. It's when authorities literally surround a person's home, trapping them inside, effectively making them a prisoner without any formal charges. In this case, military and police surrounded Bobi Wine's house, stopping him from leaving while the election results were being counted.
So, you add all this up, the blackout, the conflicting claims, the violent campaign, and it all leads to this incredibly volatile and uncertain aftermath.
Yeah, and with the internet down and tensions just through the roof, reports of violence started to trickle out. But in that kind of information vacuum, trying to get a clear picture of what was actually happening on the ground became almost impossible, with just wildly different stories coming from every side.
Just take this one incident in the town of Butambala as an example. A human rights activist reported that security forces killed at least 10 opposition supporters. But the police spokesperson, he told a completely different story, claiming their officers were attacked by, and these are his words, goons with machetes, and that they only fired in self-defense. It's two totally different realities with no real way to verify the truth.
And here's the piece of context that makes all of this so incredibly dangerous. Since gaining independence 6 decades ago, Uganda has never, not once, had a peaceful transfer of presidential power. Every single change of leadership has come with instability or violence.
Which leaves us with the ultimate, completely unresolved question. You've got a challenger under house arrest, a government claiming a landslide victory in the middle of an internet blackout, and a history of turbulent power transitions. So, what comes next for Uganda?